Right, it is 6:35 now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. So hello and welcome to everyone who's here to the very first public speaking event, which is just going to be a little introductory event as to what you can expect in the next few months at these public speaking events. My name's Hannah. I'll be hosting these events alongside Kat Bunniel, who can't be with us today. I am currently doing the Inns of Court College of Advocacy Bar course. I start part 2 in these next couple of weeks, but at the moment I'm working at the Hull Combined Court Centre, and there I've done a combination of clerking, ushering and administrative jobs. So I'd like to think I have a relatively good idea of the court system and how it works. And I just want to throw it out there to anyone who's involved in these little Legis Lab stuffs and the things going on. I'm more than happy if anyone wants to reach out, has any questions or wants any help with anything.
This video is sponsored by Lexstery, the first free online community for aspiring lawyers pursuing a legal career in England and Wales. Inside the community, you will gain access to our courses, legal career consulting programs, forum, free resources, and live events, which we run every month, covering a range of topics, including legal applications, legal interviews, advocacy events, and we host guest speakers from across the legal profession who share their tips and tricks on how to secure a training contract and pupilage. You can sign up for free at lexstery.com, and we look forward to welcoming you inside our legal community.
I'm here. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started on this introduction to public speaking. So the content that we're going to be going through today is we're going to cover what is public speaking, why it's important, what you can expect from these events coming up, how you can prepare, and my top tips for success. So firstly, what is public speaking? So public speaking is the art of talking to an audience by effectively delivering a speech or presentation to inform, educate, or persuade a group of people. In a legal context, public speaking can be defined as the art of influencing an audience's beliefs, attitudes, or actions through effectively communicating arguments and evidence. It's very much an art form, I would say, public speaking, and I think it's a really crucial one to have sort of in your toolkit ahead of pursuing a career in the bar, as there are many instances where you're going to need to have public speaking skills. So these events are definitely an opportunity for you to practice them and hopefully build your confidence in doing that. So moving into that, why is public speaking important? So here I've just gone ahead and listed a number of examples I can think of where public speaking comes into play at the bar. So the very first one I could think of are at pupilage interviews. When applying for pupilage and doing your interviews, you're obviously going to get asked questions, and you need to be able to have a structured answer to each question and be quite confident in what you're saying to them to sort of help you in obtaining a pupilage. So that's one instance I can think of. The second one is to build credibility with your clients and colleagues when you're representing someone, especially if they're not familiar with the legal sphere. You need to be able to sort of assist them in what's going on, what's going to happen rather, and sort of put them at ease, because the legal system can be quite scary if you're not familiar with it. So that would sort of be a role in which you would use public speaking there, as well, of course, building credibility with colleagues who will assist and help. Thirdly, connecting with your audience, whether this be a judge or a jury. Judges, when you appear before them, always want to know very quickly what's going on, what needs to happen, and what's going to happen moving forward in the progression of the case. And with a jury, that especially is when your advocacy will come into play, which consists of public speaking, especially when you do your opening and closing speeches. You need to sort of be able to connect with a jury to sort of persuade them to your argument. And with that is where your public speaking skills will definitely come into play. Advancing legal arguments and winning cases, I think that sort of speaks for itself. And then lastly, attracting new clients and advancing professionally. There will be so many instances where you will need to use your public speaking skills to progress your career. And obviously, if you're starting out, that can be when you're applying to university, applying to the bar if there's an interview aspect to that, and then going from there, applying for pupilage, and from then on as you go up in the world. So yeah. So what can you expect from these public speaking events? Now, I mean, I don't think public speaking is the one that necessarily first comes into your minds when you think of things I need to do to prepare for a career at the bar. We always think of mooting and debating, but I do think public speaking is such a crucial one. And I do think these events, if I speak for myself, are going to be really fun opportunities for you to do that in a much more relaxed environment. So there'll be an event each month in which you'll be given a topic. They're sort of going to be themed months of a topic. One thing that springs to mind is there's going to be a mental health month, and in that month there'll be a list of questions for which you to choose one that you'd like to prepare your speech on for the event. So you're going to be given 5 minutes to give this speech and essentially answer that question. In due course, we will upload the marking criteria on the website so that you can look at what you're going to be judged upon and have an understanding as to what's going to be expected from you in these events. Obviously today this session's being recorded so that people who can't attend today can look back on it, but moving on from here, none of the events are going to be recorded. This is just to allow for a more relaxed environment so that you can practice your public speaking skills, improve upon your skills, and because it's the 5 minutes, you will very quickly afterwards be given some brief feedback for you to take away and learn from, and hopefully implement that so that by the end of maybe all these events, you become the most confident public speaker ever. So that would, for me, would be the goal with these events. So how can you prepare? So as I said before, there'll be documents uploaded to the event page on the website. You can click on that and you'll see all the things that you need to prepare the questions for that month, so you can choose which one you want to prepare and go from there, which I had then said in the second bit. And then, of course, we all have different preparation techniques, but my biggest advice to you would be to pay close attention to the marking criteria and ensure that you have a clear structure, a beginning, middle, and end, if you will. I think in public speaking, it's a very important to use verbal signposting, so I'd just keep that in mind when you're preparing as well. You can, of course, make notes, whatever helps you prepare, whether this be flashcards, bullet points, highlighting keywords. You obviously don't have to physically have any notes, but it is definitely something that can help to have something to refer back to so that you can stay on track. But of course, that is entirely up to you. And practice, absolutely practice as many times as you can ahead of the event. Practice on a friend, practice on a family member, practice in the mirror even. I always find when I'm preparing for any sort of speech, I like to record myself. I don't know if this is just something I do or if other people do, but I find it helps to record myself and look back on, especially because these events are being timed. You only have the 5 minutes, so at least recording yourself, you can just speak and see where that gets you in terms of time and go from there, and then cut down sort of the fluff and get to the nitty-gritty that you need. And lastly, in preparing, all you have to do is well and truly believe in yourself and trust in what you're saying and trust in what you're doing, and that in answering the question, you are putting the best argument you can forward for that question. This is all meant to be fun and to help you build upon your skills. So just trust in what you're doing, and I can guarantee you will see great success. And with that being said, my top tips for success. So firstly, we've gone through it before, is be prepared. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. You can't just wing these events. You can, of course, try, but I think you will find in winging it, you will waffle, because we all have a bad habit of that. When we haven't prepped, we just let our mouth run. So do make sure you take the time to consider the question, make sure you've answered the question and that you have everything in order to succeed. Secondly, practice. Practice, as everyone says, does indeed make perfect. And I have run through these a moment ago, but these are ways in which I like to practice. And I'm sure you'll all find your various ways in which to practice. So just a few examples there. I'm not going to go over those again because I did just say those a moment ago. Next, be confident. I know that's sometimes so much easier said than done, but I think if you really do take the time to prepare, that'll assist in your confidence because you'll know what you're saying and you'll believe in the things that you're saying. And in believing that, you allow others to believe it too. So really do have faith in your skills, have faith in the preparation that you've done, because the best thing you can do in this event is be yourself in answering the question. So yeah. Keep track of time. As I say, it is a 5-minute speech and time certainly can fly quickly. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the clock and using your time wisely to make sure you answer the question in the most effective way possible. Be clear and concise. People are more likely to remember what you have to say if you keep it clear and concise. So in doing this, as I said before, cut out all the unnecessary fluff and hone in on the really key points you need to address to answer the question. And verbal signposting, again, can be a really useful tool. For example, I'm answering this question, this is my answer, I'm going to cover this, this, and that, and then it helps your audience follow what you're saying. Speak, don't read. It's really easy to just look at your notes and read from them. You don't want to be looking down and reading your notes like this. There will be judges. You want to make some level of eye contact with them. I know that's a little difficult on a screen, but as long as you can make sure you're looking up at the camera, that can help. And when you're directly talking to an audience, the best thing you can do is maintain some level of eye contact. And public speaking, especially at the bar, a key part of that is really connecting and engaging with the audience. And people are more likely to listen to what you have to say if you are engaged and talking to them rather than your notes. Be mindful of your tone and your body language. I'm sort of doing that now, making sure I'm sitting up straight. That's a massive thing to do. Recognize the different fluctuations in your tone. Take pauses where necessary if you're trying to get that sort of dramatic effect on a point. And also just be aware of if you're talking too fast or too slow even. Sort of find a nice happy medium in your tone. And lastly, and most importantly, have fun. The most important thing you can do throughout this entire thing is have fun. We, of course, want you to get the most out of these events and have fun whilst doing it. So yeah, that's me telling you, you have to have fun now. And with all that being said, I know that may have gone quite quickly, but I really wanted to stick to the key parts. We'll sort of open the floor for any questions people may have.
I can manage the questions if that helps, Hannah.
It helps.
So to start off, I had a question.
Yes.
I think the public speaking events will be really valuable. I think, like you said, mooting and debating are essential for any barrister or aspiring barrister. But I think the beauty of the public speaking events is that they are more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, when they're more relaxed, your personality comes through more. I just feel like, what do you do to kind of, when the nerves are on, to kind of bring that personality of you out through your performance? Like, is there anything that you do? Is there any like ritual that you have, or is it just a case of getting more experience and settling into the performance?
I think for me personally, I definitely, with any sort of event I used to do, even public speaking, would get really bad anxiety about it. So I found different ways to cope with that. Like convincing myself it's not a big deal. I have been the person who's gone into the bathroom and done the Superman pose to sort of help. But I do think the more often I do these events or any sort of public speaking, the more confident I am doing it, the more settled I am into doing it. I've done it enough times now where it doesn't bother me too much, but I do think you have to sort of throw yourself in the deep end, and that's how you will allow yourself to improve. So if anyone who is wanting to participate in these events and is a little bit nervous about it because it's not a standard thing maybe perhaps people are used to, I'd really recommend coming to the first event, seeing what it's like, and the more you do it, I would hope your skills can grow and you can become more confident with it, and you can take everything you learn from these events with you moving forward in your own careers and aspirations. So
I really like that tip, because that's actually one of my favorite tips I've ever had, is playing it down. Playing it down is such a great way to get rid of the nerves. When you've convinced yourself that it doesn't matter, then the nerves naturally, obviously it takes a bit to get there, but the more that you do it and the more you get perspective, the better it actually helps your performance. I remember a guy, a barrister who was at Chambers of Manchester, told me, just like, the best thing you can do for the nerves is just be okay with not getting the pupilage, because that's it, kind of coming to peace with the worst case scenario, and actually realizing that your family is still there. You're not going to die after this performance. You've got food on the table when you get home. You're blessed. You've got a roof over your head. Just kind of remembering the blessings in our lives, and not catastrophizing what ends up happening in this performance. Because ultimately, another tip that helps me is knowing that in the beginning of my journey, every performance I went to, I didn't hate, but there was, like you, there's a lot of nerves there. But knowing every time I left those performances, I was improving. And I think that's the key, really. You get some people who are, let's say, blessed in the sense that they want to be a public speaker, they want to be an advocate, they want the limelight, and that's a personality type. Not everyone is that type, and for those who aren't, I think, like you said, having those nerves and knowing that they're normal, knowing that you're getting better, and knowing that you're going to keep coming back, keep performing, ultimately you'll get to a place down the line where, like where you're at now, is that you've done it so many times where it's just another day in the office for you.
Yeah. And actually, going off the back of that, I was at work today and I was speaking to a judge, because they've been giving me all sorts of advice ahead of starting the second bit of my bar. They said to me, and I really liked it, they said, it can seem really daunting, especially when you see barristers every day just doing their thing. But you also have to remember that these are just ordinary people with their own ordinary lives. And that'll be the case with these judges. I think, for me, my experience with the bar is everyone has always been so friendly and so helpful and so welcoming. So I think you also need to just remind yourself, people want to see you succeed, and people will help you in getting to where you need to be. So it can seem like everyone's, they're so great, they're so wonderful, and it's so scary. How can I ever achieve that? Because imposter syndrome is definitely a very real thing when pursuing a career at the bar. But you have to remember that everyone you see who's you think is so great now has been you at some point, and they've all worked to get there. So if they can, you 100%. Absolutely can as well.
And the last thing I'm going to say, and we'll see if anyone else has any questions, is I had a trial today, and like you said in the beginning, public speaking is more akin to the drafting, the opening, and the closing. Mooting and debating are separate styles of advocacy, but what people will learn in these public debating arenas, in these public speaking arenas, is the art of, for me, for example, when I was drafting my opening last night, I was up very late, I think, having a background in public speaking, knowing kind of the fundamentals of structure, like you said, there's a start, a middle, and end. That's it. In its simplest, that is what it is. I am telling someone a story. There's going to be a start, there's going to be a middle, and there's going to be an end. And those skills and those skills which you touched on earlier, ultimately, they do feed through the opening. And some chambers, part of the pupilage process, they ask you to do an opening. I never did an opening at bar school. So I really only started to learn how to draft an opening and closing during pupilage. So I think learning this skill set is actually deeply valuable, in the sense that if you are asked to put together an opening or a closing, the fundamental skills which you'll learn in these public speaking classes, they'll feed through any piece of advocacy that you do, because, like you've said, the opening and closing, they are their own styles of advocacy, because you are presenting an argument or your propositions to a panel with no return. They're not going to be interrupting you. So it's really a moment, an opportunity for you in whatever style that you want. And this is the beauty of the classes, is that sometimes you'll do an opening in, maybe it was a bit too emotional, maybe it was a bit too emphatic. And they say you experiment with hundreds of types of advocacy until you find your own style. And everyone has their own style. And I think style actually comes through someone's personality when they lean into who they are, and finding out who they are as an advocate is a process. So hopefully through these classes and through actually attending public speaking events and experimenting with different styles, people will get to a place, we'll all get to a place. I'm still learning my own style. I'm not there yet. I've drafted loads of openings and closings during pupilage, and every time I go, I just see it as a new opportunity to experiment with a different flavor that they might like, they might not like, but ultimately the road to finding your own style there'll be a graveyard of styles behind it that you've gone through to get to where you want to get to. And hopefully, if we can take things from each other, every time I'm in the presence of other advocates, I always walk away from someone's performance with at least one thing I liked that they did really well. And that's really helpful to have that feedback coming from the people around us, because it will contribute to a better performance. And like you said, when you're looking at these people, these giants who seem like just magnificent in their performances, and you're thinking, how do they get there? There is thousands of hours of practice behind them. There's thousands of experiments, and every day is just another day to try something new and hopefully get to where you want to get to. I'm just going to have a look in the chat. Do we have any more questions before we wrap up? I'm conscious just to say that as Hannah said, all the materials, they will be in the description for each event in the community, and they'll be normally uploaded 1 to 2 weeks before we're running the events. Other than that, I don't really have any more to add. Hannah, is there anything from you? Have I missed anything?
No, there's nothing else that I can think of that we haven't already covered.
Well, I think on that note then, I don't see any hands up. I think on that note, we'll leave it there.
Yeah, and at that, thank you all very much. I look forward to seeing you all at these events, and I can't wait to see you all become more confident public speakers as they all go on.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Have a
Thank
nice
you very
evening.
much, Hannah. Thank you.